Hey,
Delicious Forrest, how are you, my friend?
I'm all right, masculine Matt. I wanted a bit of
Thank
alliteration, didn't
you.
know what to go for, but
I'll
here he
take
is.
that. Thank you.
How are
Masculine
you?
Matt. I'm all right,
Hey.
buddy. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I'm just trying to get back into normal life post Christmas and New Year's. Done about you? You back at work?
Oh, I'm back at work. It's a busy old time.
Is that?
This month is just insane. You come back from
Ugh.
Christmas, it's like you've never left, and then all those things you said in December, we'll park that till January. Oh no,
Oh, here it is.
they're all here
It's like
at the same
smacking the
time.
face. Good news, there you are. It's right there.
Next year, I'm going to say, let's park this till February. And then I'm going to come back in January like, what a month.
To be honest, you kind of do. You need a little bit of a couple weeks circuit breaker when you get back to it. Just get back into. I have been today's been the proper first day for me, just doing some proper freelance admin, and my brain is fried. It took me a good 90 minutes to get into gear, at least
Yeah,
90 minutes.
at
But
least.
yeah, hey, there we are.
But,
But this is delicious. Here we are again, you and
we're
me.
back. We've got an exciting one tonight, I believe,
Yeah,
Matt.
we have. Where we have. So we have got a very exciting interview episode for you, dear listener. So I don't know if you know, but a few weeks ago we reviewed the movie Scrap, which was written, directed, and acted by Vivian Kerr. Now, guess what? We're
What?
going to interview Vivian Kerr today.
Shocked.
Woo!
I don't believe it. I
Which is
don't
very,
believe
very
it.
exciting. I know, it's so exciting. So she will be with us imminently. But this is, well, to be honest, dear listener, if you haven't listened to the review of Scrap, please do. But also go and see the movie. It is available on digital release right now. I think it released in December
Ooh.
last month, and it's racked up some independent movie awards. It is good. It's a good movie, so this is really exciting. Also, this is something for me where I basically, I think towards the end of the episode, said, "Oh, it'd be great to interview her," and then she actually commented us on social media, and here we are.
Fantastic. And here we are.
Mental.
And also, we're a big fan of Rotten Tomatoes. 97% fresh
Damn.
tomato, this movie. All right?
That's good.
And, you know, it deserves it. And we'll go into that after this intro. We'll see you on the other side with our good friend, Vivian. Bye-bye.
Vivian, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It means a lot. So, we've reviewed the movie a few weeks ago, which is great, by the way, and congratulations. It's a fantastic movie. We absolutely loved it. The other thing is, I need to apologise because I said your last name wrong.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I said Kia, I think, not Kerr.
Yeah, that sounds fancier. Yeah. You know what? The actress, people do tend to say it wrong. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's right or wrong, but my family says it Kerr, but then the actress Deborah Carr also spelled Kerr, like, from here to eternity, whatever. Like, so she's probably the most famous person with the last name. But so that because of her, everyone usually says Carr, but I don't care. I don't know. You guys probably know better because it's a Scottish name, so you probably have more of a sense of the right pronunciation than I do.
It's great. What is there? There is a company that's called Kia that's based actually. When me and Forrest are based in Essex. And
Oh,
there's
is
a big
there?
yeah. I think it was some sort of electrical company or something like that.
Oh,
So
okay. And
so
it's
there was the
KER.
first thing that came into my head, and I was like, oh no, is that wrong? Anyway, thank you for so much for coming on. This is an absolute joy, and the fact that this has happened through social media as well it means a lot. But first things first, we'll go straight in. We love to talk about kind of the making of a project and all that kind of stuff. So me and myself and Forrest being within the creative industries as well. But also we like to hear about the people that we talk to and interview with about kind of what your background is as a creative. So kind of start there. How did it start? How did you get into kind of film, but particularly from your background from an actor and a writer and director?
Well, we were sort of joking a little bit before we started recording about like theater school. And I think like a lot of actually like sort of directors, producers, like I started as an actor and that was what That was my first love. That's what I wanted to do. I genuinely thought I would go and do like Shakespeare on Broadway. Like I thought that was going to be my career, right? And
Yeah.
so I moved to LA originally to go to university here for the theater school at USC and studied acting, drama, did a ton of plays. It's like, all those plays everybody does, like whatever, The House of Bernarda Alba or whatever,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like Pirandello, you're like, whatever, nobody cares.
Those old chestnuts.
Yeah, you're like, all right, Miss Julie.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did theater, and then after I graduated, did like a couple years of sort of, I would say like regional theater, just like plays here and there, kind of just trying to figure things out, and then rapidly sort of figured out like I was not going to be one of the ones who was going to be able to like make my living in theater. Like I was not going to be honestly, I wasn't getting cast really. Like I would go to these calls and like, you'd be lucky to get like the maid role, right? It was like you're never going to even though at that time the roles that were like the leading roles were going to famous film stars, so it was like, oh, okay. So like I realized, unless I was going to be like a musical theater person and be like a dancer, which I am not, cannot sing, cannot dance, that there wasn't really, I didn't think it was a viable option to like make a living like that. So I ended up kind of deciding, okay, like I'm going to stay in LA and I'm going to really focus on camera work, really focus on pursuing television, pursuing film, and trying to actually earn some money. And then I was lucky for most of sort of my 20s, I was able to like book just a few things here and there. Like you could book like 2 or 3 things a year. And, the money you could make from that would sort of sustain you in between your other, waiter job or whatever you were doing to try to, supplement your income. So I was lucky to do like a little bit of television work. I was always doing like short films with friends, producing little web series, like just trying to stay busy with whatever I could do. And then by the time I got into my 30s, I had done enough independent producing of shorts that I really wanted to make a feature film. Really wanted to do it. Scrap originally was a short film and had done festivals we shot it in 2018, and then 2019 had done a whole bunch of festivals with it and was very successful. And so that made me think like, okay, this could be the idea that might have legs as a feature. And I wrote the feature script, was lucky enough to have Anthony want to do it, read the script. He was signed on to do it.
That's great.
And then on the back of that, it was just like, then I think I spent another year and a half trying to figure out how to get the money. And then, like another year of like kind of putting all the pieces together. And then we finally filmed it in 2021, premiered in 2022, did 2 years of film festivals, and now is finally out on video on demand. So I wish I was one of those people who had like practical overnight success, but like, no, it's been a very long journey to even get here, like even to get to where I directed my first feature.
It's amazing. I think I cut
It's very long.
It's amazing to hear, and I think it's good for I think young creatives who might hear these kind of magical stories of like, oh, I ended up and now I'm Tom Holland and I'm in Spider-Man and I'm doing everything.
No, I wanted to be Tom Holland. I was very interested. Just no one was interested in me being Tom Holland.
And
I offered,
I offer anything, please.
I'll be Spider-Man. It's fine.
Now looking back, is there anything like, so a young creative who might be at the start of that journey, and you sound like you were really kind of busy with it and knew that what you needed to do and think about the different steps involved, and you're quite proactive by the sound of it. So is there anything that you like, any guidance or advice you might give a young creative going through that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is even though I was proactive, I think I was still a little bit waiting for permission. And now looking back, I think I could have been bolder. Like I think I was, you don't really know until you do something whether or not you can do it. And I think I could have done this even like maybe 5 years earlier. And I just sort of kind of held myself back a little bit. Like, yeah, again, I guess my advice would just be like, don't wait for permission. And you might as well, if you're worried about, oh, it's going to be bad or I'm going to fail or, it doesn't matter, because even if you like made a film and it was a terrible film, you're going to make another film. And so like, you'll learn from that film and move on. So just keep risking and keep, if it's something you think you might want to do, you're probably going to be good at it just because you think like, because you're drawn to it. So you don't have to be the best, you can just be solid. That's good. That's good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's my biggest advice. Just don't wait, don't wait for anyone to tell you, you should do something. If you feel you should do it or you can do it or you want to do it, that's enough. Like that's confirmation enough.
There's also something really exciting about that kind of, once you unlock the realization that risk taking comes hand in hand with creativity, and you yield yourself to the risk, because then because the next thing you don't know what's in front of you, and you meet that with a little bit more joy instead of being fearful. What was it like in terms of the development of the script for you? Because obviously this has happened over a multitude of years for you. Were there times where it was like, I don't know what's going to happen in this bit or in this scene or this story, in this journey with this character? Or was it quite free flowing for you and quite consistent?
Like very free flowing, but only because it had been a short film first. I had had so much time to think about the feature. So before I even wrote the feature, like I sort of had it written. I'd sort of spent enough time with thinking about the idea and the characters and the story. Like it had almost been written in my head already.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know like how a lot of different writers write. Like maybe they discover it more on the page, like as they're typing. But yeah, for me, for this script, it was just like done. And then I kind of was like procrastinating a little bit. And I remember one night, maybe after a couple glasses of wine, just like kind of getting out a piece of paper and being like, I'm just gonna like write down the whole movie, like exactly as I think it's gonna be. And I did, and like now looking back, which is funny because somewhere I think I still have that piece of paper. I need to do something with it. But now looking, like it's basically the film. Like it's, nothing has really changed. It's sort of the character arcs and act 1, act 2, act 3, like all the plot points. And then when I actually sat down and wrote the full first draft of the feature, I think I wrote it in less than like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then very little changed. And that's never happened before. But I think it's also just I'd never had so much time to think about something before writing it. So I don't know. I don't know what's the best process.
No, I don't think anybody does.
Either think about it for a long time or just start and then revise.
Yeah.
I don't know. One or the other.
Yeah.
So it's been a long process and obviously a short film previously. So before that, take it years back, kind of what inspired, if anything, the creation of this story?
I think a couple things. So like one, I've lived in Hollywood, essentially since university, and the neighborhood had changed a lot. I think this was around like 2015, 2016. There were a lot more people like sleeping on the sidewalk, like sleeping in tents, living in RVs, or like living in their car. And there were people, some of them had families. Some of them looked like in the morning they would like go to some sort of employment and then come back to stay in their car. So that I just sort of saw every day. That was kind of, I think, lurking in the back of my brain. And I thought maybe there was like some sort of story there. But all the films that I could think of that sort of depicted homelessness, it was always like there was always a secondary consideration, like whether it was like drug addiction or mental illness, right? Like The Soloist, or, it was a story about someone aging out of the foster care system. And it also seemed to be about people who, when we were encountering them, were already like very, very far down that well, that they were already sort of traditionally what you would think of as someone who's like out there like sleeping rough. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking like, I don't think I've ever seen a movie about someone who was like just at the very beginning of that journey, who like just got laid off, just got evicted or lost their place to live. And maybe that all happened like within the last 30 days. And so they've just maybe started like to sleep in their car, and they've put like their, maybe their things in storage, and they're kind of lying to people and like lying to themselves that like, this is only gonna be temporary. In a few weeks, I'll be back on my feet. I'll have enough money. I'll put a deposit down on a new apartment. And so I was like, okay, well, what if it could start there? Like you just see someone who's like maybe about to slip into this, but for whatever reason, they can't tell their family and they can't ask for help. So that was really the genesis of it. And then it was like kind of going down that rabbit hole of like, okay, so like, what would I do? Like, how would I make this work? And then all the scenes where my character is like showering at her gym and like saying, oh, I'm on a business trip, I'm out of town, like all these lies that she's like telling everyone, while frantically trying to like get job interviews. that was just me thinking like, yeah, what would just sort of an average middle class person do to try to hide it? And that I was like, I don't think I'd ever seen that. That seemed interesting to me.
Yeah, and you could definitely see that initial setup as well in that first scene in the car, with just seeing the unraveling of that, and then also what I loved about that is that it wasn't kind of like stakes that were external, but it was psychological stakes. And it's a very human thing to kind of go, having that pride to say that you're in this situation and not wanting to tell your loved ones. For instance, Ben, Beth's brother, not telling initially that kind of reveal. Was this character of Beth based on anyone, or was it just conjured from the page? Or because it's very human.
No, but I did think. I mean, I think there were like things that I thought could be comical, that like maybe situations maybe I've experienced or been in, that I sort of like expanded a little bit, that I thought could be for comedic effect. Because I think even though there's obviously something really serious and sad going on with her, there's also a lot of humor in a character who's like got a lot of self-deception. Like she's trying so hard to pretend everything's fine that there's, it's like, lady, how bad does it have to go? You know what I mean? Like people are literally asking you if you're okay,
Yeah.
And there was like, just certain things that from my life, like I just sort of always think it's funny if you, like we've all been in those situations where you're coming out of the shop and you've got like 10 bags that you're like juggling, and somebody says like, oh, do you need any help? And you're like, no, I'm fine. And then like you walk 10 feet and you're like, yeah, actually I kind of do need help. Like, why didn't I just say yes?
Totally.
Because like, this is so stupid. Like, who do I think I'm impressing by carrying all my own bags? Like but like, I think our knee-jerk reaction is not to invite help. Like that's just not our reaction as human beings. I think it's even for something small like that. We do really, and also maybe it's also maybe more of an American thing. I'm not sure. You'll have to sort of tell me what you think. But like, I think there's a very like American sensibility we have about being like self-sufficient and being a self-starter. We have like a lot of, I think, pride around that and being independent. And so maybe it's especially hard for, the American sort of sensibility to ask for help. I'm not sure.
Yeah. One of the things that kind of struck me and I really enjoyed was that the first 45 minutes of Scrap. It's a kind of delicate unraveling of the information. So quite often you'll go to a movie and you're either walking in that movie knowing what you're about to see, Jurassic World. Okay, there's gonna be dinosaurs, right? And seeing kind of going into it and just seeing, we see Beth in the car for a long amount of time, and we're just getting slow bits and pieces fed to us as an audience for quite a long time at the beginning there, with some more information that Ben knows. Obviously, we find out about the child through Ben. So it was that an intentional move to use that kind of slow unraveling of information, or is that just what happened there?
Yeah, I like that too. I like Mike Leigh movies, I think, are like that. And I enjoy those films where you start by just encountering a character in their world, and then you watch their behavior, and that tells you, what you need to know. Like, I don't think it's fun if you like just sort of give this expositional dump in the first 10 minutes and you learn everything about someone's backstory. And also it was, I did intentionally want to try to maybe show a character that like when you first encounter her, she's not particularly sympathetic or likable. This is maybe not someone you'd want to be friends with. Yep. She's sort of self-absorbed. She's, just a little shallow. Like she's maybe not like a wonderful human being. But hopefully sort of as you go across the movie, you realize like why she is the way she is. And I do find it very interesting because sometimes people will, comment how much they like hate her or how much they didn't like the character. And I think, I understand that, you don't like this character, but at the same time, like you learn like she's like an orphan. She's been physically abused by her ex. You know what I mean? Like, there's like so many, like she's been laid off, like she's almost been assaulted. Like there's so many things that happened to her that it's very funny, like how it's also, I think, made me realize like just how hard we are sometimes on characters. I'm like, wow, like what do you need from, like, what do you need to see happen to her in order for you to like her more, and just because someone is maybe not like a likable person doesn't mean they deserve any of that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with And again, I think I mentioned in the review quite a lot, like it's such an incredibly human story, because that's how trauma is kind of conjured when you have experiences in your life like that, from like a physical abuse or loss of job. All those types of things create then defense mechanisms for a human. So then when you see someone that's being quite harsh or quite prideful to a point where it's oh, why aren't you asking for help, you know you kind of have to understand where that's coming from. And what's great about the movie is that slow unravel. Like you say, it does feel very reminiscent of Mike Leigh, by the way. It's got that slow drip feed all the way through to the end. Yeah. The one thing me and Forrest were talking about just before we press record is that we really, really enjoyed the ending, particularly of Ben's journey, with that being in the car and seeing Beth. And seeing that moment of going, oh, he's helped. He's that sense of he's got the family he's always wanted. He's got the kid he's always wanted as well. And was that an ending that was complete from the offset, or with each character, with Beth's character in particular as well, were there any different endings in the script?
That was the ending. That was always the ending. Although I think in the script, which again, I have to go back and find. I don't think it was spelled out. It was sort of that he watches them. God, I'd have to find exactly what I wrote. It was something like he watches them and then has sort of an understanding that kind of occurs to him, and he nods.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of I think Anthony and I talked a little bit about what that could be for him. And, what you've sort of said is definitely something we discussed, but ultimately I kind of left it up to him a little bit. And so you don't almost have to ask him what he was actually thinking in that moment. But I think it's also just maybe an acknowledgement that they're going to be okay somehow. It's all going to sort of work out the way that it's supposed to, and that he can let go of being the caretaker. But yeah, I think the movie, even though Beth is ostensibly the protagonist, I think it is very much Ben's movie too, because it's his, Beth's journey is ultimately a little bit bigger, obviously someone going from sleeping in their car to not sleeping in their car, but his journey is much more internal and maybe more impactful for a lot of people who maybe can't relate to Beth, but they do relate to being the sibling who has to be the caretaker, or the person who has to keep everything together and prop people up and be the source of, financial support or emotional support, and how exhausting that can be. So I think there's something to be said for it really being his movie. And I love his performance. I think he's so good.
He's so good.
He's so good. And it's so subtle. And, there were a few other takes too that we did, but that one, I just thought, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's it. That has to be it. It was so beautifully simple. So yeah, I love it. Obviously I love it. I wrote it and I directed it, but yeah, I like those things where, things aren't wrapped up in a neat little bow. And I think I was also really inspired by that last scene in Kenneth Lonergan's You Can Count on Me, with Laura Linney and Mark Ruffalo on the bench. They're sitting on a bench waiting for a bus, and the ending is just that he just gets on the bus and they hug. And that's it. Life goes on. And so that's the simplicity of that was, I think I also wanted to try to capture that. So I'm just stealing from Kenneth Lonergan, basically.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah,
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So you talked about Anthony and we talked about other cast members. What was, and obviously this came from a short movie. What was the casting process like? Did you know Anthony before?
So he did do the short. So I didn't know him from before the short, but I had the short and we sent it to his agent. And luckily he's based in New York and I'm based in LA, and we were shooting the short in LA, but he was going to be in LA anyway, or in California anyway, for some event. So it actually just worked out really well with his schedule. And I think we just did everything to make it work. I think it was something like, oh, he's going to be in California these dates. And we were like, oh, that's so funny. And that's when we're shooting the, so it's like,
what are the chances?
Yeah. Oh, what a coincidence. So I think there was a little bit of that, and I always tell people, you never know. So reach out to people. And if they have a hole in their schedule and the writing is good and it feels like an interesting project, you can get all kinds of people to agree to do work. Even I don't know, Judi Dench does like random short films here and there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, people are happy to not just help, but like they want to do some interesting projects with newer directors. So, so then I was lucky because he came on and then we met during the short, and I just like loved our dynamic as like as Ben and Beth. I was like, this is perfect. It's exactly what I imagined. And then I was able to write the feature with him in mind. So I think when I was writing the feature as well, because I just pictured him playing the role, yeah, I was almost, I don't know if tailoring it to his strengths, but I just he was just in my mind as that character as I wrote. So I guess it would have been very weird if he had not done the feature and then I'd had to like kind of someone else that would have made things like, yeah, maybe I would have, I don't know, adjusted things. But yeah, so it just worked out. Everything kind of flowed from there. So he came on board for the feature. And then we hired casting directors based in LA to cast not every role, just I think they cast Lana Parrilla as Stacy, the little girl who plays my daughter, Birdie. She's amazing. Juliana Lane.
So great.
Cleo Thomas, who plays my love interest, and Beth Dover, who plays the principal at the school. She cast them. And then all the other roles, the like day player kind of one-line roles, are almost all people that I have known for years. They're people who I was in school with, who I was in acting class with. So it was so, I mean, no one ever talks about that, but like there's such a pleasure, like as a director, to be able to give people work, And I remember telling talking to them and saying like, we're not auditioning for like these like one scene role. Like I'm just going to email people and be like, hey, you want to do this? Like, so that was great. But then, for those roles that we did have the casting directors do, the main one was Stacy, Lana Parrilla. And that was such an important role. And we were so lucky to get her because she's an extraordinary actress and was such a great, I think she was such a great counterpoint to myself and Anthony. Like, just, her energy is like, she's just sort of not someone that you would necessarily want if you were screwing up to be your sister-in-law. She's just like, she's sort of like that person who seems like they have eyes in the back of their head. You can't get away with anything. And she got all of it. She's such a great actress because she has like such intelligence and such strength, but she can also be like incredibly vulnerable. And she's always looking for like the nuance in the character or the nuance of the scene. And I think in the hands of a lesser actress, that role could have maybe not been so important in the film. So, and the two of them were great. Like they're like, just, I don't know. I loved them together. They were like, they just created like such a sweet kind of unexpected marriage, in the film. And so yeah, really got really lucky with the cast. They're all incredible.
No, that's it. You can definitely see it in the movie in terms of the actual sheer passion that you all had in every scene and the chemistry. It all, you tell that it all was very much of a passion project for many of the cast members and supporting cast. Talking about the kind of the making, particularly like being on set, so yourself writing, directing and acting and starring in it, what was it like for you? If you were in scenes with Anthony, for instance, would there be moments where you'd be like directing and acting at the same time, or would you then delegate that to somebody else, an AD, I don't know, or what was that like? Just very intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, I was feeling it out a little bit for the first time because it was like a full feature. And so I had this conversation with my first AD, Marissa, who was amazing, kind of before we started, because she was sort of like, how do you want to do this? So we kind of just played it by ear. And I sort of said like, look, I'm going to, say action and cut. And then there might be days or like moments where I think that's not going to be the best way to do it. So I'll just have you do it. But yeah, there would be times where we would be doing a scene and like, instead of calling cut, like I would just stop and say, like, give a note, and then we'd kind of go back a little bit and kind of do it again. But for the most part, we would play scenes like from start to finish, almost like a play, right? Like the scene I'm thinking of we have the scene in the kitchen where he sort of confronts me about, everything. And, and that we just kind of played it through. Like we just, would just play it through from every angle, start to finish, never stopping. And yeah, and I don't watch playback of myself. Like, so even if I'm just acting in someone else's project, like I don't have any interest in watching playback, seeing my face, looking at what my face is doing on camera. Like, I don't care about any of that. Like, to me, like I prefer, it takes me out of it. Like, so I want to be like in it, and I want to,
Great.
I don't want to be self-conscious in that way. So, so because that's how I work as an actor, like it was great because it was like, well, great. I don't need to look at myself anyway. The only time I ever would like look at anything would be, like my DP and I had prepped really thoroughly, but if there was something like he needed to show me because like, I don't know, of a framing issue or like we wanted to have a conversation about like maybe changing different size lens or like, I don't know, something unexpected came up on the day, then I would kind of look and we would talk about things. But it was really, really seamless. And I was really surprised at, I think, how well it worked. But I think that you're lucky on film because you have so much time before you shoot the film to prep. So like by the time you start pre-production, the script's done. So like the writing's done. That part's over. And then you have like this long pre-production period where you're working really closely with your DP. So again, before you get to day one on set, you've already seen all the locations, planned out, shot listed the whole film, every single shot of the movie, which is knowledge that the other actors don't get. So, it's a privilege to be like, you get so much more inner knowledge of like what we're gonna use, what we're not gonna use, than the other actors do. Like you realize, oh, like actors are kept in the dark about so many things that like maybe they don't need to be, like maybe they're, like someone might be acting like full out in like some take and you're like, as the director, you might be like, oh, we're only going to use the last like 20 seconds of this shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like just there's things that actors don't know that you're not privy to. So I thought it was really efficient and I keep encouraging all my actor friends to direct because I think it actually made me a better actor. I really do.
Yeah, completely. I think it's the same thing for me. So I've been directing professionally now for about 6 years, and I've been acting for like 13 prior to that. And I think when you see the kind of like, oh, the love and the passion and the energy that a director needs to take, and then taking that through from an actor's perspective, it's not like you kind of like gain patience, but you just kind of like open up the perspective of going, oh, okay, I can see what they're trying to say, or see where they're trying to see that moment go, and then giving them what you think that they need. And I think what's great, I think from your circumstances that you were able to kind of like go, well, that's the writing phase. That's me as the writer. Now it's me as the director. Now it's me as the actor. And being able to kind of like just defragment those kind of like three roles, because they're massive roles, aren't they? So it's great to know. I mean,
I was sort of joking to a friend that I had like a actor, like I had sort of two scripts essentially. Like I sort of had my like director binder. So part of like Ben in the film, his little binder thing and making fun of that is like kind of making fun of myself. So I'm a very like type A organized person with my little binders, and having like my director binder and my actor binder, right? And like those things don't cross, like they're separate things. And even having it like that was just incredibly helpful because I knew it's like, okay, if I'm picking this one up, it's like I'm in this world. Then if I'm picking this one up, I'm in this other world. So again, that maybe just sounds insane, but I thought it was very helpful.
Yeah, makes complete sense. What? So now short film. It's become a feature film. It's out there. It's out in the wild. Go and watch it, everybody. What's next on the horizon for you, Vivian?
Well, so one of the things, so Scrap did such a long festival run that I actually ended up shooting my second feature while Scrap was still in festivals. So, so I have a second feature called Seance, which is could not be more different. It's a 1890s set, like Victorian Gothic thriller. It's like a chamber piece. It only has 4 characters. It takes place in one house, haunted house overnight. Yeah, it's very like theater-y, to be honest. It's sort of very, very loosely based on a Strindberg play. And yeah, so we shot that we shot that 2 years ago. And so that just had its premiere at a festival here called Newport Beach. And so hopefully we'll be doing more festivals next year. And I would love it if it could come out before the end of 2020. I say next year, Jesus, it's 2025 now. I would love it if it could come out by the end of this year. That would be great.
Amazing.
Yeah. Great. And I'm trying to write more things and trying to figure out how to get money for those things like everybody else.
That's amazing. Well, we'll be sure to catch Seance, review that, and then get you back on again. We'll talk about that one.
I know it's so different. You're gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" I know.
So wait, what?
Yeah, it's funny. There was a critic who, there's one critic who reviewed the seance for the festival premiere, and then after he actually reviewed Scrap, and he's the only person who saw them in that order. So it was funny because when he reviewed Scrap, I emailed him and was like, "This is going to be very strange for you now." Like seeing this film, like his impression of my work was like period piece,
Wow.
was essentially Miss Julie. And so I was like, get ready for this other film that's like,
no time for something completely different.
yeah. I was like, all right, yeah.
So,
but yeah,
so
I'm grateful to at least have something else going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the kind of, so you've done like two different completely different projects. What would be your dream project if you could do anything? Spider-Man, maybe.
Yeah. You know what the thing is like, it's become very right. It's very I don't know, cool, right? To sort of like criticize Marvel or like as sort of selling out. But if somebody came to me and was like, you can shoot the next Star Wars movie, I'd be like, great. Because to me, I think like the fun challenge would be like figuring out how you find that those sort of really deep character relationships and really deep emotion within the context of like green screen and like budgets like that. And I think when those movies succeed, it's because they do bring in these filmmakers who really have a commitment to making those relationships feel real, even if it's superhero, even if it's sci-fi or whatever. So anyway, I mean, they're not calling me, but if they did, dream project. Do you know what's funny? Actually, I was talking to somebody the other day about period pieces and maybe more of them. And while I don't think I would do one on a low budget because it was so hard, I would totally love to do some like huge, big budget. God, like I would do like a big budget like adaptation of like A Tale of Two Cities. Do you know what I mean? Or some like some like film that maybe some great book that like hasn't had a really great film adaptation in like a few decades. Kind of going and like really just doing it like properly. Someone was telling me to go see, they said there's a really good French, The Count of Monte Cristo that just came out. I think it's a French film that they said it was like amazing, that it was like really properly well done, great budget, like sword fights and set pieces and like amazing costumes, but like good script. Yeah, I think taking on something like that and like doing it in kind of an epic Ridley Scott kind of way, but again, making sure that those character relationships feel real and it like emotionally lands for an audience. I would love to do something like that. Again, no one's calling me, but maybe one day.
Have you ever seen This Is Us? Did you watch the This Is Us series?
No,
So it was great. It had several seasons in it.
Yeah, I think it won a lot of awards.
Yeah, and it was, but it was so good at having like, so good. The writing was amazing at kind of personal, believable relationships. And as soon as I saw this, I messaged you, Matt, didn't I? And I said, my God, Vivian should have been one of the writers. This would have been amazing. Like, it's just that real kind of, focus being on those characters and the journey and not having to speed that journey across for the next action moment or whatever it was.
I was just watching a little bit of that British show, Happy Valley. That's like, and I was thinking about this and I was like, oh, this is so brilliant because it could have just been like another crime show, right? But like that like, God, that actress is so amazing. And like the relationships between all the people in the town feel so real. And like, I mean, I don't know. I think about that all the time now, that it's like, that just seems like the difference between whether or not any movie, any story, whether it works or doesn't for an audience. It's like, you can put all the money in the world into it. Not to criticize Gladiator 2. I haven't seen it. I have not seen it, but I have been told that, that it could be an example of one of those movies where you put all the money in the world into it, but if the character relationships don't work and aren't believable, and aren't somehow resonant for an audience, like emotionally, which is what the first Gladiator did so well. Like we all genuinely cared about, Russell Crowe's character, and we felt for this man who had like suffered so much and lost his family. Again, haven't seen Gladiator 2. Maybe it does all of that. But I think, at any level, indie level or huge budget level. Like if you don't buy the relationships and if you don't care about the characters, or you don't at least understand the characters psychologically, it just doesn't work for me anyway.
Agreed.
100%. Vivian, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute joy. Congratulations on the movie. We would love to have you back for Seance. We would definitely love to have you back. We'll check out
I
the
will
movie.
send it your way when we've got. Hopefully, I would love to like screen in the UK. That'd be so fun.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, amazing. We'll be there, definitely. We have one last question. We always ask this question to all of our interviews guests, which is obviously because we don't be hero podcasts. We do predominantly a lot of superhero stuff, but we love doing all of these independent movie reviews as well. You probably know what I'm going to ask now.
Superhero stuff.
So Vivian, if you could play any superhero or supervillain, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's so good. I think I would play. I definitely want to play a villain. I think I would play like the Master on Doctor Who, because I was definitely a Doctor Who person when I was a kid. Loved it, and thought it was so fun. And like, or if not the Master, like I'd love to play like the arch nemesis of like the hero. And I want to be able to like unravel all the layers of like why the person is that way, what led them down the path of evil, all of that fun writing stuff.
Yeah.
And I also think it would just be fun. I think, sometimes people who like, I don't know, look like me or like seem like sort of a nice person on the outside, like don't get cast in those kind of roles. So I feel like maybe I would be like an unexpected villain,
Ooh, amazing. Like unraveled after a few episodes, maybe.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe redemption, or maybe and then maybe redemption arc. I don't know, right? Isn't that with Loki? Isn't he kind of good?
That's Loki. That is, yeah.
Okay. So something like that. I think, female Loki would be fun.
Yes, amazing.
I love that. Thanks, Vivian. That's great. we'll cast you. You're in. Come on. we have no power whatsoever, but we'll bring you over.
Great. We'll just make our own with like a camcorder and like wobbly sets.
Perfect.
One step at a time. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Vivian. Really appreciate you taking part in today's podcast, and all the best for all of the movies that are to come.
Thank you so much.